It's time to rev your engines. The Syracuse Nationals proudly presents the Cavalcade of Cars, March 22nd through 23rd at the New York State Fairgrounds. The two-day indoor car show features all the classics, plus lifted trucks, Jeeps, motorcycles, and more. Cavalcade of Cars, CNY.com.
Today, broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University, this is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome into Newhouse Afternoon. I'm Jacob Charno, joined with my co-host Maria Wainscott and Ari Feinstein here on ESPN 97.7 Syracuse and QSportsTalk.com. Guys, I'm really excited for our show today. We have a lot to talk about. The NFL Draft Combine is active, started yesterday. Lots to talk about, but let's start here on the Hill with the men's basketball team. So Ari, I'll go to you. Big win over NC State, if you want to call it I'll call it a much-needed win over NC State. What were your takeaways from that game?
Yeah, with NC State, I mean, Syracuse, they needed a win. I mean, I know that we wanted to get to March Madness this year. Obviously, that seems like it's probably not going to happen unless some historic run goes on in the ACC tournament. But it was definitely significant to be right on the breaking point of clinching a spot. I'm pretty sure that they need one more game to win against either Virginia Tech, SMU, or Virginia, which are all on the road, so it won't be easy, but one more win will lock up a spot at the ACC tournament. And then, hey, if they stack some wins, it's March. March is known for its madness, so who knows what can happen.
I'm so excited for this men's team. We finally saw some flashes of goodness that we had been hoping for, especially on this show. We were just talking about we can be quite harsh on this men's basketball program and Coach Adrian Autry. We talked a little bit about their locker room culture last time, but honestly, something seems like it clicked for them. Something changed. We saw 7 different scorers in the first half, and finally, Syracuse was able to hold off a very worthy opponent in Kevin Keats' NC State team. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So they have a big game coming up tomorrow against Virginia Tech. They need to win this game because you need to start stacking up not only to get into the tournament, but to start stacking that momentum up heading into it. You mentioned March. A lot of crazy stuff happens in March. I don't even want to count this team out yet because there have been teams who have been a lot worse than the Orange are this season that have gone on to do better things in the tournament. So I guess I'll go to you, Maria.
Yeah.
What are you expecting this Virginia Tech game? What are the keys to winning this game tomorrow for the Orange?
That's a really, really good question. The key is to start fast. We saw that against NC State. A problem that had happened to the Orange so many times this season was the fact that they had these sloppy sort of second halves of the first half, if that makes any sense. You know, starting fast a little bit, but then eventually entering some sort of rut, and then they just couldn't get things going on the offense, finding the right rotation, spreading the offensive wealth to not just get themselves going, but get themselves out of that hole. So we finally saw the winning recipe for success. It was against NC State, starting fast, not even giving them a chance from the jump. So I'm looking forward to another fast start for them against Virginia Tech in Castle Coliseum, but that's obviously a really tough venue in Blacksburg, Virginia. Looking forward to seeing how Syracuse fares against another ACC road opponent. But this game has major stakes. I'm not sure if you guys know, but Syracuse, dating back to about the 1960s, hasn't had a season where they're losing more than 16 games. They're currently at 16. So hoping that they can hold off this losing streak that could potentially come on the road, Syracuse could kind of stay away from that scary stat line that's chasing them right now.
Yeah, so continue.
Every year there's a team that goes through a hot stretch, right? Every single year, there's a specific team, honestly not one specific team, maybe every team goes through a hot stretch at some point. We haven't seen that yet from Syracuse, you know? So maybe they're waiting until these next couple of games to finally get it to click. You mentioned how NC State, it was their best well-rounded game that I've seen so far this season there. Everything was clicking on offensive end and on the defensive end, and it really just came together. It was finally Syracuse basketball, what we've been waiting for all season long. So like you mentioned, carrying that momentum into these next 3 games and building on one game after another. Hopefully it's not 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Hopefully they just keep the wave going forward and start stacking some wins.
Yeah, and look, when you look at the NC State game, I think the biggest thing outside of the fact that they won the game was the way they won the game and the way the players in that starting lineup performed. Because we said from the beginning of the season that this was not a team with a star player like Cooper Flagg. They don't have a guy that they can just go to that will score 30 points a game and help this team win games. But you're looking at it, you know, J.J. Starling had 17 points. Jair Davis had 15 points. Eddie Lampion, what a game from him with a double-double. 14 points, 15 total rebounds. that's the kind of performance that the Orange need to continue if they want to win games into the ACC tournament. You need to out-rebound your teams. You need to out-physical your teams that you're playing against. And everybody in this starting lineup needs to contribute like they did in this game.
Yeah, talking about everybody needing to contribute, someone who I was really impressed by watching that game was Naheem McLeod. I don't know why he hadn't gotten involved as much in the offensive rotation as he did in NC State. I just don't feel like they had been utilizing him in that position in the paint quite as much. But 7'4". How are they not utilizing a presence like him on the floor more often? I was really impressed by that. Coach Adrian Autry in the post-game interview talked a little bit about this being so impressive to him, even as the coach. This was the most complete and comfortable game of basketball that he had seen them play so far this season. He quoted saying, this was the best, close to the best 40 minutes of basketball I've seen our team play all season. So that's really assuring, hearing that from the coach. And, a lot of losses. We've seen it happen this season, but are they really losses if you've learned from them and started executing at the right time in the season? It's not really a loss. It's a lot of lessons, and I know it's a hard pill to swallow as students, but, hopefully they can get a spark going into March.
Yeah, and one other thing from that press conference specifically is how passionate he was for his team, and also how he mentioned how the team hasn't given up this season. Obviously, things haven't gone as planned. Things didn't go the way that everyone had hoped that they were supposed to go, right? But he was just so emotional when he was saying this team doesn't quit. Obviously, like I mentioned, hasn't gone well, but they still are together as a unit, and they're still pushing to hopefully make it into the ACC tournament, which is looking more likely than not. So just the team sticking together and being able to work together to reach a goal that may have seemed like it wasn't possible.
Yeah, and one more player I want to highlight coming off the bench is Chris Bell, because what the Orange are going to need Chris Bell to do as no longer a starter for this team is come in and be able to shoot the three. And that's not something that he's really been able to do in the last couple weeks. And that's something that I think if Chris Bell can figure that out, that is a whole that creates a whole nother dynamic on this offense, especially coming off the bench. And when you can play, however many minutes of great basketball throughout the entire game and still have those guys, when you can rely on the bench coming in to keep those games close and give your starters a rest, that guy needs to be Chris Bell. And unfortunately, it really hasn't been recently, but we've seen what Chris Bell can do on the basketball court. I'm still convinced that he can get back there and be that guy to help them go on that run in this ACC tournament.
For sure. And I'm still looking at a lot more guys to be able to step up at this point.
Yeah.
And that's all, coaching philosophy. If Coach Adrian Autry wants to get more guys in the rotation, he's got to start talking to them in the locker room, enabling them, making them feel like they can contribute to offensive production. Something else I want to mention too, Syracuse is 7-2 when they're leading at the half. We saw that again with NC State, which was amazing. I think that also takes us back to that conversation about locker room culture. What's happening in the locker room at halftime? What's sort of the morale that's happening? Are you getting the guys fired up to go out there and just keep going, or is it sort of like, okay, we're leading, can we take a back seat here? Like, I need to see some fire from this team, especially going into ACC tournament play. If you're leading at the half, don't let up. Make sure you're finishing strong. It's no opportunity is given to you in March. Everyone has to be fought for. So I'm looking at Syracuse, and particularly
a team like Pitt would be massive for them going forward.
Do you know what side of the tournament that they'd be on?
I don't.
Like who their next opponent would be? Because who do you think would be, not like, we gotta take one game at a time,
right,
but who would be the second best opponent, or what would be the easiest route for Syracuse, do you think, to get to the potential ACC championship?
It would be Wake Forest, I think. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. So they would have Pitt in game one, and then they would get Wake Forest. So they'd be on the side with like Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Duke.
Okay.
So that'll be a tough matchup.
Yeah,
but if we can get to Duke, that is a very successful tournament.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Hopefully, if we get past the first game, it'll be pretty successful.
Oh, absolutely. And I think too, like on our show today, we can finally just breathe a sigh of relief. We've been preaching the doom and gloom of this squad for basically the entire season, but Syracuse is looking like they're going to evade that scary cut line. This making the tournament means so much. Not only does your season go on, but you also don't make it on the wrong side of history. For so many years, the existence of the ACC conference and the ACC tournament play in men's and women's basketball, all 15 teams in the ACC have made the ACC conference. That makes sense. The ACC conference tournament, excuse me. But imagine being one of the first teams in ACC history to not make the ACC tournament. And also, I know that the blow would be even worse if it's, SMU or some of the other teams that were added this year in conference expansion. I mean, they're not, have they been battle tested? Are they true ACC, by blood? But they make the conference tournament and you don't? I mean, that's just hurtful. So I know that Syracuse fans can finally breathe a sigh of relief. We're in the tournament. 99% after that win against NC State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to go to break real quick. When we come back, we're going to talk some women's basketball and some men's and women's lacrosse. Newhouse Afternoon. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Sweet.
Nice.
It's
Yay.
actually an interesting point. Like,
oh my gosh, just imagine.
That's a pretty good point there. That's crazy.
Never. How humiliating.
That is pretty humiliating.
One of the first teams in the ACC
Ever.
to not make the ACC tournament. The one where everyone got in before.
Right. It's just really humiliating.
Yeah, I was like, wait, that's pretty interesting.
Well, because sometimes we want to get into the weeds of of it all, which is really interesting also, right? Like, okay, this person or this team loses, what happens? But it's also like, okay, well, we're looking at the big picture. Why were Syracuse fans so distraught about them making it? Because imagine how embarrassing. You get SMU and Cal in and we're out? Like, are you kidding me? That's, that's rough, man. So, okay, let's talk some women's basketball.
Not gonna lie, I don't have
You're totally fine. So last night, I was actually really surprised at the game because Pittsburgh, in my opinion, had more offensive weapons. They had they have several very, very talented, very senior players. And honestly, I was just shocked that Syracuse was able to pull that one out. So that was a good win for Syracuse. Must needed win. So we'll see. What else do I have that's interesting? Some cool stuff for Georgia Woolley had a great game. Sophie Burrows, great game. Shai Hawkins, great game. Which is just that was the philosophy. Coach Jack's all about getting more players in the rotation. She also has the most, most starting lineups in any power conference team with 11. So her whole thing, I feel which in my opinion, I think we've talked about this before, we couldn't find the right group to get things going. Now I feel it's starting to pay off. As we get toward the end here, they're really finding a spark plug with someone off the bench. So there's that conversation to be had.
Cool.
That was a big win for us last night. We needed that.
Did you guys all pick something? The best thing I saw this week?
I did.
I didn't, but I can pick something quickly.
I have a good one.
So as do I. Hopefully we don't have the same one.
Yeah. Wait, do you want to just tell me
Dun,
now?
dun, dun.
Yeah, I put the ending to that
Oh.
Michigan State Maryland game.
That's what I had.
That was
I
so
knew
good.
it, but-
Well, the segment's gonna get better and better, especially in March. It's gonna be okay, there's 3 games we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going more on the Scott Van Pelt, his reaction.
I love it.
So we could piggyback off that.
Yo, I hit a nice little parlay yesterday.
Yeah.
A little 2-legger. North Texas money line against FAU at the Mean Green. They're doing something down there in Denton, Texas.
I've been hot lately.
I'm telling you, something down there in Denton, Texas. And then UC San Diego -5.5 was by far the craziest what I've ever had in my life. They won by 6. There was 5 seconds left in the game. Northridge was not winning that game, and they fouled. And this kid who had missed 2 free throws 10 seconds earlier just drilled both for them to cover. Cashed the parlay.
Wow.
It was fantastic.
Sheesh.
I'm trying to think what I've seen in sports that's been amazing.
I'm currently up $444.
Attaboy.
I'll take it.
Attaboy.
I'll take it.
What should I do for the best thing I saw this week?
Should I just say Juan Soto hitting his first home run as a Met? I think I might do that too. I might change that.
Yay.
Jacob, I'm sorry. I'm going to be ruthless when we talk about
Yeah. I'm sure.
Yay.
It's okay. I'll just deal with it.
Maybe I'll say something about Travis Kelce returning to play. It's not really the best thing I saw, but that's kind of big news. But people kind of know he's coming back. Okay.
My dad's watching. He goes, $444.
What?
He goes, kaboom.
Wait, guys.
Kaboom.
We need to be better. On the next break, we need to pose another poll. We did chocolate or fruit last time. We got to do something else.
We got to get creative.
Yes, we do.
We should do like, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back, Newhouse Afternoon, ESPN 97.7 Syracuse and QSportsTalk.com. I'm Jacob Charno, joined with Maria Wainscott and Ari Feinstein. This hour of Newhouse Afternoon is powered by Drivers Village Cicero. Go to dvoffers.com for more info. Guys, let's keep talking about basketball just a little bit. Let's talk about the women's basketball team. They're coming off a big win against Pitt. Maria, as our Syracuse women's basketball correspondent on this show, I'll turn it to you.
Wow, guys, that win last night for Syracuse was massive. They needed that so bad in order to clinch a spot in the ACC tournament. Syracuse was tied with Miami and Pittsburgh 4-12 in the ACC for that 15th and final coveted spot to make the tournament, and last night they did just that, effectively secure their spot. So that was absolutely fantastic. It was the 73rd all-time meeting between those two programs. Pittsburgh is Syracuse's longest played opponent, which is pretty interesting. And Syracuse actually has a 27-game winning streak over Pittsburgh. So last night they extended that from 26 to 27. Super necessary. That would have been really embarrassing to lose that streak, break that streak. It was also Coach Jack's 398th career win, which means if they win this Sunday against Boston College, that'll be 399 and then hopefully 400 in the ACC tournament.
Wow, and one thing I want to point out from last night's game is Georgia Woolley leading the Cuse thanks to 25 points on 50% shooting from the field. What a game she had last night, especially against my sister's alma mater. I didn't know that stat of 26 games, so I'm rubbing it in my sister's face right now. You guys can't beat the Syracuse women's basketball team.
No, they cannot. And Georgia Woolley, speaking of just what a star she was for Syracuse women's basketball, not just last night but all season, she actually set her career high in assists last night with 9. So not only is she a star on offense, but she's also great at passing that ball around, playing some seriously unselfish basketball as well. Yeah,
so one more game against Boston College coming up. Maria, in that game, what are you looking for before this women's team heads into the ACC tournament with, I mean, a really tough season behind them, but once again, it's all about momentum heading into it. Similar to the men's team, the regular season really doesn't matter once you get into the tournament. It's really only for seeding. If you're in the tournament, you're in the tournament. Yeah. And they made it. So what does the women's team have to do to get that momentum back and start getting that momentum on their side?
It's a great question. Syracuse women's basketball has a very similar charge that I gave to the men's basketball program. They just need to figure out that rotation and be a little bit more confident in terms of the players that they throw out on the hardwood. Syracuse women's basketball currently has 11 starting lineups recorded this season. That's the most in any power conference team in the nation. So I know that's Coach Jack's philosophy to get more players out there to see who could be the spark, but it's really starting to work for this program, with the exception obviously being against number 11 Duke when they played them last Sunday. That was just tough. I mean, there were 13 different players off the bench just trying to get a spark, something going. And, you know, while it was sort of effective, it really wasn't. And the offensive burden really did fall on Sophie Burrows and Georgia Woolley again. My fear is that if they don't figure out who some of these other offensive weapons can be, Georgia Woolley is going to get injured. And we've seen in the last 3 games she's gone down with an injury, whether it's been a lower body injury, a head injury, an arm injury. I've seen her go out for several reasons because she's just being overworked, in my opinion. She's the star. That's what happens when you're the star on a team. But I think that there's just too much offensive pressure being put on Georgia Woolley and Sophie Burrows. But last night, I will say I saw a flash of some unselfish basketball and some well-rounded offensive prowess. Shai Hawkins made a huge impact in the game last night. She logged her first three-point shot of the season. So again, just getting players out there, including Olivia Schmidt, who's a freshman who was in the starting lineup, not this past game, but the game before, just showing that she's ready to step up and take a leadership role. Those signs for me are good signs ahead of March.
So when Georgia Woolley, she's a senior this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So next year, do you think that this team is really going to have to rely on Sophie Burrows. I mean, her development has been something to see this season.
Yeah.
I mean, she played her 28th consecutive game as a starter, and she secured her 12th double-figure outing in the last 15 games with 21 points last night. I mean, last season when she was barely getting any minutes behind Alyssa Latham and Deaisha Fair, and I feel that there was one more player, but besides the point, we didn't really get to see what Sophie Burrows brought to the table. And just being able to see her development, playing in those big minutes. I remember earlier in the year, first semester, when we were giving a little bit of a preview of women's basketball, we were asking ourselves who was going to fit into that role. And sure, she's no Deaisha Fair, because Deaisha Fair she's Deaisha Fair.
A legend.
Yeah, a legend. But seeing Sophie Burrows' development this season and her being able to be on this team again next year I think will be a big building block for the success of this team moving forward.
I agree completely. I mean, I wish we could say that there were more players that I'm excited to see develop. Obviously I am, but I think Sophie Burrows is really going to inherit that, number one spot on the team in terms of scoring, offense, and other offensive production stats. She has played, like you said, under some Syracuse legends in the past, and then being kind of the number two to Georgia Woolley, I think has really benefited her. I also think Madeline Potts, another Aussie on the Syracuse squad, is going to step up major from the arc. They all have a similar playing style, especially when it comes to shooting the three ball. I'm interested to see what Coach Jack has done in terms of recruiting, but in terms of her offensive weapons, I know she likes to play, from beyond the arc.
Yeah, and I think very similar to the men's team, this in terms of like what they need to do to get to start performing in this tournament.
Right.
Get production from the bench. You mentioned it a bunch. Shai Hawkins, I think, could be a massive piece of this team going forward, taking some of that pressure off of Georgia Woolley and Sophie Burrows, putting it on, getting Kira Wood in there with 14 points, 8 rebounds in this past game against Pitt. Really good showing from her. Izzy Vergeau, same thing. Dominique Camp. I mean, all these players coming together, playing like this team has chemistry for sure. And
100%.
and like you've talked about, you've been in the locker room. They care about each other. This team does. And then when it comes to March, I think those are two incredibly important things that make me forget a little bit about how this season went for them.
Absolutely. I want to find the quote exactly, but I know one of our broadcasters who did the play-by-play yesterday talked to Coach Jack just about like the nature and the morale of the team this week, just ahead of last night's game. And he asked Coach Jack, what's the morale like? What have practices been like this week? And Coach Jack said they've been intense. They've been a lot. And our team is hoping that they can play from beyond Sunday. So she was saying this might be like we're in the home stretch of the last games we might play this year, so it's intense in practice, something to that effect. But I think, Coach Jack is such a fantastic coach in the sense that she always makes every game like their Super Bowl. There's no game to be overlooked, and so she always brings the context into practice. This could be our last game. This could be our last win. This could be your last opportunity to play with these seniors. So I think in terms of that chemistry and playing with fire, she is definitely the person to have at the helm at this point.
And we know Jacob's all about vibes.
Yes.
I'm a culture guy.
Yeah.
He's the culture guy.
I'm the culture guy.
Yes. No, I just love that. And, this snapped a 4-game losing streak for the Orange. So again, getting the squad to rally ahead of March, that's something that Coach FLJ is really good at.
And one of the things that I want to point out is how you mentioned that she's never afraid to mix things up. You mentioned, was it 11 different starting lineups this season? So she's not afraid to, if this isn't working, she loves to mix and match, She puts all egos aside and it's like, all right, if that's not working, we're going to slot you in here. We're going to put you over here. Maybe you could change positions, or maybe you bring the ball up. Like many different, she's so unique in her coaching skills.
I agree.
And I think that's what has kept this team together over the course of the season.
Yeah, I agree. Something she told me one time at shoot around, I was saying something about Sophie Burrows. She was coming off her 28-point game, that career high in scoring. And I was like, how excited is she? And she goes, there's no she. It's only we. She was like, all of these players earn their scholarships. I want to get them out there because they're earning. She was like, they pay this amount of money in order for these students to play here. She's like, they're all earning their scholarships and I want them out on the hardwood. So I love that about her.
Yeah, absolutely. One more thing I want to talk about before we go to break with this Pitt game was the turnover battle. Was winning that turnover battle. 19 turnovers by Pitt, only 13 by Syracuse. Those are that's what wins games in tournament play. for sure. All right, I want to get your thoughts on that too. How important, I mean, obviously it's important to limit their turnovers, but in terms of the biggest thing that this women's team needs to do heading into the tournament, what would you say it is?
Honestly, just sticking to their game. They are still, whether the record reflects it or not, they're still good enough to beat whoever. If they stick to their game, they follow the game plan, and they play to the best of their abilities, and like I mentioned before, put egos aside and just play as one unit, this team will be successful in the ACC tournament.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to go to break real quick. Newhouse afternoon. Don't go anywhere. We're talking some lacrosse when we come back.
Nice.
I actually completely forgot about lacrosse.
Me too. It was fine. But, like, we got like 8 minutes. We got like 8 or 9 minutes in on women's ball, so we'll just move. Look, we'll hit on men's and women's lacrosse really quickly, and then do the best thing we've seen.
Sounds good.
What's next after men's and women's lax?
Best thing we've seen.
Best thing. Oh, gotta find something.
I'm gonna change mine to Juan Soto. Sorry, Jacob.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go on TikTok really quick. Hello. It's like I really do feel like I'm in a fishbowl when I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Best sports moments of the week. Whoa. No, all of these are so dated.
You could just say like a sports like news or something like that.
Yes,
doesn't have to be a highlight.
could.
I'm going to push some heavy Jets propaganda in
Here we
the fourth
go.
segment.
Give it. Yeah, fourth segment doesn't it always just like fly by.
Yeah. Jacob, do you want to see another angle of this home run?
No, I'm good, actually.
Look at
Thank
this. Ready? Look how pure. Phew.
Yeah. It was cooler when he was doing it in pink truck.
Nah. The aura he has now is unmatched.
Could have had a beard.
Yeah, now
he could have had a beard.
Honestly,
now.
that could be something, one of the best things you saw this week.
Oh, the beard stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
a good one.
I like that.
No, that's a great one.
Also, there's actually a lot of different, like we could have also talked about like the whole NIL thing that's like been coming out of Syracuse. Like we don't have money, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like
please donate.
might get a little dicey.
Please donate. I donate every year.
I mean, what's our tuition like?
I donate enough.
$80K?
Yeah, I donate enough. It's fine.
Yeah, tuition's $80K and you still can't land basketball players. Don't want to play here.
I think the issue with like when we talk about like maybe getting rid of Autry is like if we do that after this season, Keon is not going to come here.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, I know. That's like, is he going to be one and done here? You think?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Who has ever been?
Do you think?
one?
I know. Do you think
Yeah.
Donnie's going to hit the portal?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. He's sick of the BS.
Yeah, I think so.
He's like,
So are we.
yeah, for real. I see videos like at tip off, like what the attendance is, and it's just
This guy, I see him on every box score. I don't know who this is.
yeah.
I've never seen this guy.
He's the
Peter
senior. He's
Peter
the-
Majstorovic?
he's
I
the-
don't know much about him.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know much
He's the
about him.
Oh my
center.
God! Wait, isn't he a freshman?
Yeah, he's a freshman.
Yeah, from what, like Croatia?
Yeah, something like that.
Dude,
He's from France.
He seems really cool.
6'8", 215.
He's 6'8".
Yeah.
He doesn't look that tall when I go to the game.
He's listed at 6'8".
Oh my God, he seems great. Channel 9 did an interview with him. It was really interesting, actually. He seems just like a good dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like a chiller.
Yeah, like a chiller. He's great.
He's a vibes guy.
He has like
vibes guy.
crazy
He's a vibes
assists.
guy.
Like I've
guy.
seen him like assist like half court to Eddie Lampkin before.
Well,
He's great.
He had quite the game.
He's a guy that
against
he's a
NC
guy
State.
you'd want to get a beer with.
No
Hell
points,
yeah.
2 turnovers.
Guys, you know
and
what we
everything.
didn't talk about, which is totally fine. Syracuse. Notre Dame got upset last night by Florida State. Women's team.
Oh, yeah.
I'm big on our women's team. The fact we were number 1 in the country last week. We
You
got
could say
upset
that's
by.
the worst thing you've seen this week.
Yeah, I think I should say that. Actually, I would love to say that.
Yeah.
I can say that.
Nothing happy for Maria this week.
Nothing for me.
Yeah. No happiness.
It's just rare that we
didn't
have
see
a team.
anything cool.
No, it's not. I'm upset. I mean, I'm so angry about it.
Wait, so are we jumping into lacrosse?
We are
first?
jumping into lacrosse. Ari, you're going to take the reins on that.
Yeah, talk about
Okay.
lacrosse. You could talk about the men's and women's team for like, if you want to talk like 3 minutes.
I could. I want to make this. I'll say I want to make this
Yeah.
quick because we got
You're
some
good.
other fun stuff planned.
You're good.
No, we're
Yeah.
good.
I mean,
Take
I think
your
just
time.
understanding the stakes, right?
Just
Like
what the deal is.
both,
We're like a
both-
little bit behind. Not a little bit behind. No, we're good now. But
I mean, both are like on their
we're
redemption tours right now.
Yeah, because I ended the last one like a minute, or I think it was like a minute early.
It's fine. Give Maria time to.
Thank you guys. No, that was very nice. It's fun.
All the QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back, Newhouse Afternoon. I'm Jacob Charno, joined with Maria Wainscott and Ari Feinstein on ESPN 97.7 Syracuse and QSportsTalk.com. Ari, I'm going to turn it right to you Maria is our women's basketball correspondent. I'll turn it over to our official lacrosse correspondent. Ari, why don't you talk about the men's lacrosse team to start, because really tough week since we last came on the air talking about them. Redshirt senior midfielder Jackson Burtwhistle out for the year just came out. Couple tough losses, one to Maryland, one to Harvard. Why don't you take the reins there? Talk about why we dropped to number 11 in the polls.
I could rant on and on about the men's lacrosse team, but it's upsetting because I said at the beginning of the season, hey, like
we're going to go undefeated.
We could go undefeated. I mean, just because we won 25 to 5 against Jacksonville, but they looked so good. And then the competition started to build up a little bit, and they became exposed. But the one thing Syracuse needs to realize, if they want to be the best, they have to beat the best. And so far in those big games, Joey Spallina, he gets shut down. The good teams, the top 25, Maryland, Harvard, they're not like Jacksonville where Joey Spallina could just do his thing. He could pass whoever he wants. He could shoot at any angle and have some ridiculous goal of the year after every single goal. And it's disappointing to see how this team is so good. They're so talented, and yet they still can't get these big wins. But Syracuse, they did play well against Harvard. They started off the game on fire. They started off winning 5-0. They outshot Harvard 50-40, 31 of which came in the first half. In the first half, the Orange were rolling up until Harvard ultimately figured them out in the second half and then just put pedal to the metal to ultimately take the win. But one player that I do want to point out who has been such an asset for this team this year, who has really surprised me, which it honestly shouldn't based off his numbers last year, is Owen Hiltz.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Joey Spallina, he has 29 points this year leading the team, but Owen Hiltz, he's not far behind. He is 23. So his production has certainly helped this team on offense, as well as Finn Thompson also having a phenomenal year as well, as he's another top 3 scorer. So Finn Thompson especially, he wasn't one of those big guys last season that was getting all those points, getting those shot opportunities. So now with him stepping into the mix, he has really been productive. He's setting his teams up. He's setting his teammates up for different types of shots. He's not forcing anything. He dodges when he needs to. And his development has truly been awesome to see.
Yeah. Ari, I have kind of a question for you. I know that they lost 2 back-to-back really tough matchups, but don't you still find it a good lesson at this point in the year to have some of these tough lessons hit you early? I mean, another thing too that I feel like is important, and I just want to, hash out with you, is just the fact that, especially in that Harvard game, I saw a lot of fight, especially towards the end, but it shouldn't have to come down to that last few minutes of play. Like, it was 15-14, and, there was a shot on goal with 7 seconds left in the game. I love the fight, but is it enough, to just say, at the end there, they can come back, or is it just like a series of bad decisions that lead them to lose a game like Harvard?
I think it's more like the series of bad decisions. I mean, when they saw in the second half that they weren't getting those same scoring opportunities that they were getting in the first half, they had to make a change. They needed to figure something out to figure out this Harvard defense, because in the first half they were rolling, they were dominant, and then they let Harvard creep back into the game, scoring 3 straight goals to cut the lead to 5-3 early on. And then once they figured out their game, it was really tough for Syracuse to adjust to that and win this game, unfortunately.
Yeah. And they travel to Utah next, right? I mean, that's still tomorrow. Another formidable opponent. How do they, work on getting back on a winning streak?
Yeah, I think it's just they need to stick to their game. They, like I mentioned, I feel like I don't want to sound too repetitive because every team has their own game that works for them. But Syracuse's game is offense. They're so good at moving the ball. They're quick. Their decision making is awesome. My roommate who played lacrosse in high school, I asked him this past weekend, what's the talent differential from high school to Division I lacrosse? Obviously, it's pretty big, but you were passing the ball, you were shooting the ball into the net. What's the difference in quickness and decision making? And he said to me that this Syracuse team, they are so good and so quick, and he could never keep up with their decision making and ability to play the game the way they do, just because of how talented they are. So they need to rely, I hate to say this because they don't need to rely on Joey Splina because they have so many different weapons, but they need him to break out again this game and say, hey, we're cutting this losing streak off and we're going to take this game in Utah. Like, no more messing around. Let's get our game back on track and let's start a new winning streak, because 2 losses doesn't mean your season's over, and it's still early. They have a lot of time to bounce back, so why not start tomorrow?
Yeah, let's talk about another team with 2 losses, is the women's lacrosse team, coming off 2 tough losses back-to-back against number 2 UNC and number 3 Northwestern. 2 obviously very, very respectable, great programs, but at the same time, we're supposed to be a top program as well, and I would have liked to see at least a little bit more of a fight against both UNC and against Northwestern. But Ari, what do you think about those?
Yeah, I think the UNC game was a little bit tougher than the Northwestern. I'm actually not as worried about this women's team as I am about the men's team, because this women's team, we knew what they were going to do this season. Emma Ward and Olivia Adamson, we knew that those 2 girls were going to be, or those 2 women, my mistake, were going to be the 2 players that produce the most for this squad, and they have done just that already. I mean, Emma Ward already with 28 points in the first 5 games, I believe. So, and their ability to score, they have 42 assists. They have 42 assists this season on goals, which has just been their way of scoring. You know, passing the ball around, finding lanes for different players, and they face another tough team tomorrow in Clemson, and it's another big chance to bounce back.
Yeah, 100%. I know that's going to be a tough game against Clemson, but what are your thoughts on Daniela Gayette being the goalkeeper that has really stepped up when Syracuse needed it the most?
Yeah, last season we had Delaney Schweitzer.
Yeah.
She was just on a whole nother level of goaltending. But I think Daniela Gayette has done a phenomenal job. She still has some work to do. It's only her first year starting, so obviously we don't know how we don't know how consistently she plays. Like, we knew Delaney Schweitzer, every time she stepped in that crease, that she was going to have like a crazy game, a great game, potentially make key saves for Syracuse to win games. So we need to see that more from Daniela Gayette. She has a 500 save percentage, which obviously isn't great, but I mean, it's good in college lacrosse, but she still has a lot of development to have.
Totally.
So let's move into our next segment. I love doing this. We started doing it last show. The best thing that we've seen this week, I guess I'll start here because we had the same one. That ending to the Michigan State Maryland men's basketball
was just
game
awesome.
Was unreal. I mean, Trey Holloman from deep, about as deep as you can get.
Edge of the logo.
Edge of the logo to win the game. I mean, unreal win and a tough beat if you had Maryland money line, but
yeah.
Quite a cool thing if you bet Michigan State that day.
So awesome.
And it was a ranked game too, so I mean that just boosts their chances.
Huge.
And I guess we're introducing the worst thing we've seen this week, which we talked about during break. And I think the worst thing I saw this week was Michigan-Nebraska. That was the worst basketball game I've ever seen. How are both these teams supposed to be good? I don't understand. Maria, let's go to you.
Okay, guys. Well, I was hoping we could talk more about the fun stuff before we got to this, but I'm really bummed. Most of you know I came from Notre Dame, so I always, keep my eye on their sports teams, especially when they're doing exceptionally well, like the women's basketball program for the Fighting Irish was doing. They were ranked number 1 in the country last week before they were getting upset in Raleigh by NC State, number 13 in the country. Just an embarrassing loss, honestly, in that one. But I mean, it was a double overtime loss on the road, just a tough one. Was really, really hoping that Coach Niele Ivey would coach her team back up, get their confidence back. I mean, confidence, man, it takes so long to build, but it can snap in just a second, just like it did in that loss to NC State. FSU came to town last night in South Bend, back in Purcell Pavilion at Notre Dame. I was really excited. They're going to have that home crowd advantage. Some WNBA players there too to support Notre Dame, but nope, that FSU offense is the only offense in all of women's college basketball that is able to outscore Notre Dame. So I knew that they were going to come in with a vengeance to want to get another win on their winning streak. They had 4 wins in a row, FSU. They went and got their 5th with ranked win over Notre Dame. FSU was ranked 24th, Notre Dame number 3 in the country, so that was a huge win for FSU. I am super bummed, and I have no idea how Notre Dame let that one slip.
And lastly, for the best thing I saw this week, Jacob, you're not going to like it, but for those of you who didn't know, spring training started this week, and the New York Mets have this new star player that we poached from the Yankees, Mr. Juan Soto, drilling his first home run in a New York Met uniform. And honestly, right before the show started, he hit his second home run of spring training. So that was definitely my favorite thing to see this past week, and I'm excited to see him do it at Citi Field all for the next 15 years. Jacob.
Oh, well, 15 years of being third in your division.
All right.
We'll see. All right.
I do have a question for you, Jacob.
Yes.
So since Juan Soto has left, the Yankees, they've kind of made a bunch of different decisions. You know, after they lose a game, they're no longer playing New York. But one of the big things that I saw is that they changed their shaving rule. They can now have
the beards.
So is it because Juan Soto, he didn't want to grow a beard, or he wanted to grow a beard, so he was like, I'm going to go to the Mets instead? Or what do you think? Do you like the new rule or no?
I love this new rule. I think it was a long time coming. I like tradition. I'm fine with tradition, but when it's dumb like that, I mean, we're 100 years out from the guy who created that rule. So, yeah. I mean, I like it. It's a shame for Devin Williams, who, I mean, 6 years growing that beard just to shave it and then be like, you didn't even have to do that, bro.
I think they saw Devin Williams without a beard and they're like, all right, we're going to
grow it back. Just patch it back on.
We're going to change the rule.
Just patch it back on if you can do it. All right, we're going to go to break real quick. When we come back, we're going to go into our last segment of the show. We're going to talk some NFL, just storylines around the league, and some draft, which I am very excited about. Newhouse Afternoon. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Yay.
Sweet. Did you do the...
Slapped my microphone.
No,
it's
you're
all
fine.
right. You got a little excited.
I also almost said, damn.
Oh.
I was like, dang.
All right, I got some storyline stuff.
Let's see. I got some news just with some press conference stuff. Kyle McCord, what does he enjoy doing other than football and golf? Logic puzzles? Okay. Quentin Allen Jr. had sort of a touching message talking about performing for his dad, who's no longer here. Fascinating.
Bro, if the Giants get Aaron Rodgers, I don't even know, is that good? I'm actually kind of happy we're not getting Stafford. I like Stafford. No, me too, but I just think it's such a desperation move. Like, if the Giants were to do that, like, the owner's impatient, GM and head coach are on the hot seat, I mean, I think it was just a desperation move if they were to do that.
Yeah.
All right, do we have any interesting polls that we want to pose in the next couple of minutes?
Yeah, let's break this down.
Okay.
Let's think of something. Jordan, you got any ideas?
No, he has stepped away from us.
Oh, right.
No, I'm kidding.
No, we're trying to come up with a poll that we could bring to you.
You know how last
a would you rather?
We did chocolate or fruit and debated about it for a sec. What about a cookie or a brownie?
Oh, this is a good one. Would you rather always have damp socks or always have a pebble in your shoe?
Pebble in my shoe, 100%.
Really? I think
I hate a damp sock. Dominant pinky.
No,
I mean, nobody heard the question. Maria just screamed.
No, I heard it.
Dominant pinky into the abyss. Yeah. Nobody heard anything.
The question was, would you rather lose your thumb on your non-dominant hand or your pinky on your dominant hand?
That's actually a good question.
I feel like you need your thumb, right?
Yeah, I think pinky is the way to go here.
Yes, so that was why I screamed dominant pinky into the abyss.
Which you're at?
On Twitch. I don't know.
Would you rather always have yellow teeth or bad breath?
Ooh, I don't like that one.
Those
are both really bad.
Horrible. Both are horrible.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right?
I don't like that one.
Let's see.
I know, but like
Yeah,
we're on
yellow
air.
teeth,
Like
but,
imagine like them being like really bad.
I mean, you could be on radio, like we are.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah, we
still,
all got
guys.
stinky breath up here. That's what's going on, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Would you rather have bad breath or just smell bad? Think bad breath.
I don't
right?
like these questions.
All right, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm like,
How about fruits or vegetables?
I don't want it. I know. That's like my mom, too. I'll always ask her something. She's like, this would never happen to me. I don't know why I need to think about this right now.
okay,
I'm
this
like,
one-
okay.
what about this one? I'll give you guys an easier one. Would you rather spend a day exploring space or the ocean?
Space.
The ocean.
Really?
Yeah, I
think
love the
space.
ocean.
Space
I'm
is so
obsessed with
sick.
the ocean.
Yeah, space is so tough.
But like, to be fair, you wouldn't really be able to see anything. You'd have to travel miles.
I
to
like
see
both. I think those are
Well,
both
I mean,
great.
I would assume I have the proper.
equipment.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back, Newhouse Afternoon, our last segment of the day. I'm Jacob Charno, joined with Maria Wainscott and Ari Feinstein here on ESPN 97.7 Syracuse and QSportsTalk.com. It's our final segment, which means we're going to jump around a little bit. We'll stick with the NFL for now.
Yeah.
Big news coming out this morning. Matt Stafford restructured his deal so he can stay with the Los Angeles Rams after a lot of interest from the New York Giants.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was reported that the New York Giants have been talking all week in Indy at the Combine. And they're turning their attention towards former Jets quarterback
Oh boy.
and future Hall of Famer and known weirdo Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I like how the Giants didn't trade for Matthew Stafford, despite popular advocating for Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a desperation move. If they were to trade for Stafford, you have a general manager who's on the hot seat, you have a head coach who's on the hot seat, and you have an impatient owner. Those three things do not mix, because they're definitely, I would not be surprised if they just mortgaged the whole future for Matthew Stafford. I think it would be pointless. He probably has only like 2 to 3 more good years left, plus giving him a $50 million contract. I think it's smart to stay away from Stafford. I don't mind the Aaron Rodgers news that was reported this morning. I really don't. It would just be 1 year, and we get to keep all of our picks, still draft our quarterback of the future coming up in the draft. He could sit behind, our rookie quarterback could sit behind Rodgers for a year, learn a lot from, like you mentioned, a future Hall of Famer. So I like the move, wasn't desperate, and I'm excited to see where they
I will say the hot seat head coach, hot seat GM, impatient owner thing, go get Aaron Rodgers, doesn't work, buddy. I've already tried it.
And
I've already tried it.
Yeah, I think the recipe for getting your rookie quarterback, have him get set up and wait in the wings behind a veteran. That format doesn't really work either. Speaking from a Steelers fan perspective, I mean, we saw how that worked for Russ this year.
I think it depends. Like if you guys go out and get Shedeur at 3, which is how it's looking, like
Shedeur
likely, like that is how it will be. He's a guy who definitely needs to sit for a year, no matter who it's behind.
Yeah.
At that point, I think it's less learning from a Hall of Famer, more just like watching the game, watching how NFL teams are run versus a college team where. Especially for a guy like Shedeur, coming from college where, his team was run by his dad, now into the New York Giants organization, which is a whole lot different, obviously. So, I don't know. I don't hate the idea of bringing in a veteran. I think I don't not just hate it. I really like that idea of bringing in a veteran, whether it's, Rodgers, Kirko. It really doesn't matter to me as long as Shedeur is sitting behind somebody. And I think that goes for all the quarterbacks in this year's draft. I think none of them are quite ready to be week 1 starters, because the only guys that we've really seen like that are those like clear-cut number 1 picks. Caleb Williams, if you even want to say that, Joe Burrow, same thing, like Kyler Murray. The guys who were like on the edge, like Bryce Young, those guys need time to develop, and I think that Shedeur and Cam Ward are 2 of those guys, along with Jackson Dart and along with Kyle McCord, who all of a sudden Kyle McCord, that when we're talking about the quarterbacks, we're talking Cam Ward, Shedeur, Jack Dart. Now Kyle McCord is entering that conversation
Absolutely.
into there, and not only am I hearing that like not only are there reports that Kyle McCord's going higher than people think, Kyle McCord could very well be a second-round pick, could very well put himself into the end of the first round if he really keeps performing at the combine.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Yeah, no, he's just found his way into so many conversations as of late. I mean, we heard so much great stuff about him during the season, breaking so many records here at Syracuse, and then his performance in the Senior Bowl. He didn't compete in the actual game for reasons that I'm assuming were due to, preventative injuries. But in terms of his production, I mean, he was fantastic in practice. He made the all-team practice quarterback for Team East, which is the highest distinction that they can give to a quarterback who practices at the Senior Bowl. He was just fantastic. So, again, record books, he's being talked about. Then at the Senior Bowl and in the Shrine Bowl, against so many comparable national talent scouts, he's being talked about. And then, of course, being invited to the Combine today, he was able to talk more in media just about his personality. People were able to ask him about his favorite hobbies aside from football. People are getting to know him. They're getting to like him. And he's just got so much football IQ. I love that about him. And I think so many NFL scouts and GMs are starting to take notice.
I think that what the really awesome thing about Kyle McCord is, we're talking about him. We have the big S in the background on our show. Obviously, we're going to talk about Kyle McCord. But Kyle McCord is being talked about all over the nation right now as that guy. And I will say, I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick, but I think that a team will absolutely be trading up at some point in the draft for Kyle McCord. I think that if there was a quarterback in this draft that someone's going to trade up for, I think it would be McCord. He fits all those metrics. He's easy to learn. He's been at Ohio State. He's been here. There's nothing to really dislike about McCord as a prospect. He's played all the teams he's needed to play. Yeah. Played at Ohio State, played those teams, came here, played in the ACC, a much more competitive ACC this season than in years past. There's, as long as his meetings and his combine stuff goes well, this guy's going to go pretty high up in the draft. And not to throw any Jets propaganda in there, which I said I was going to do, but I'm going to. Kyle McCord grew up a huge Jets fan. Wears number 6 because of Mark Sanchez. I really think that if the Jets pass up Dart at 7 if he's there, I think they try and trade back up either into the first or into the second round, early in the second round, to get Kyle McCord into the building.
You know who, you might think this is a crazy take, but you know what his draft process reminds me a lot of? Jalen Hurts' draft process. Coming out of college, everyone thought that he'd be a 3rd, 4th round draft pick, and then a team, the Eagles, took that shot on Jalen Hurts, and honestly, I mean, we saw it. He went on to win a Super Bowl. They took the gamble and it paid off. But I mean, Kyle McCord's draft process is kind of the same thing. Guys, people who don't know football or don't watch college football to the same degree that we do, they might be like, oh, Kyle McCord, he produced well at Ohio State, he produced well at Syracuse. I see him as a 4th round guy, 5th round guy, kind of just completely underrating him from the rest of the group. But I think he'll slip into that early second round. I could see him going to the Saints, who have a hole. I could see him going to the Jets, who have a hole. Yeah. But maybe if the Giants...
I got my team already. I'm telling, dude, I love Kyle McCord to the Cardinals. I think that is such a good place for him to land. There's already the pipeline with Syracuse. They've taken Garrett. They took Garrett Williams a few years ago.
Stud, by the way.
They have Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray's future in Arizona is very up in the air, especially after this season. I don't know what his contract looks like, but there's been talks about him getting dealt. So why not let McCord sit behind Kyler for a year?
Rejoin Marvelous Marvin?
Oh,
that would be iconic. There's a huge Ohio State pipeline, though, in Arizona as well. Their right tackle, Paris Johnson Jr., and then obviously Marvin Harrison. I mean, that could be a show in Arizona.
There we go.
That would actually be really interesting if we saw McCord team up with Marv.
I mean, it would also be great, too.
Maserati.
I also love James Conner on the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, we've seen how well Kyle McCord works with just a stud running back. He's had so many reps with LaQuint Allen Jr. I think seeing James Conner and Kyle McCord would be an electric duo.
Yeah, I never really gave the Cardinals much thought until you mentioned that. I could see it. I see the vision.
Listen,
I could also see him on the Rams too.
We've talked about these quarterbacks, especially last year. Last year we talked about Bo Nix going in the second round maybe, and he went pick number 12. And I could honestly see a very similar situation happening when people start realizing that these quarterbacks are going and the top 4 or 5 guys, and then the rest of the guys, there is a huge talent gap between them. I really so the Cardinals are sitting at pick 16. If it works out how I think it does, and this is bold and probably not going to happen, but if, Cam Ward, Shadur, Jack Starter all off the board within the top 7 picks, that next guy up is Kyle McCord.
Absolutely.
It is not Quinn Ewers right now on these teams' boards. It is Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that could be the biggest draft night shock, would be Kyle McCord being a first-round pick. Maybe the Cardinals even trading back so a team could jump up, someone get one of these good receivers, Egbuka maybe, someone like that. They move back, they get McCord deep in the first round.
I feel like there's always some shock in the NFL draft.
Something's
Like
gonna
last
happen.
year,
I'm
like
just
Michael
taking a
Penix going number 8.
Yeah,
that
oh my
was
gosh,
crazy.
it just shakes everything up. But speaking of surprises, hopefully one of Syracuse's 5 will also be a surprise at the Combine. Aranda Gadsden going today, Elijah Clark, Kyle McCord, LaQuint Allen Jr., and of course, Fadil Diggs, who competed yesterday in the dash.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this Combine is going to be really exciting. There's like a lot of guys who aren't competing, but we'll see. I think we'll see most of the Syracuse guys are on. I think LaQuint Allen will probably
Definitely.
he'll be out there at some point. What day is everybody else today?
Everybody else is today. Yep.
That's what I
Kyle
thought.
already
So
did media today. Yep.
Gadsden will be there today. Awesome. All right, well, we're going to wrap up from Newhouse Afternoon today. I'm Jacob Charno, who joined with Maria Wainscott and Ari Feinstein. As always, appreciate you watching Newhouse Afternoon, and we will see you in a few weeks.
This is Orange Nation.
How are you today, Jordan?
Howdy. I'm swell, Steve.
You
How
have
are
pink
you?
pants on. I like